packed bags for a couple of weeks and came out to LA. And after a few days, I called my mom and I'm like, I think I'm going to stay out here for a little bit.
What'd she say?
My mom has actually always been supportive. She wants me to be
That's
happy, ultimately.
That's great.
Yeah, she wants me to be happy. And I think she always trusted that I would figure it out.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I started off as a PA on music video sets. My uncle hooked me up. Yeah. My uncle, yeah, Ray K.
18-hour sets.
Long days.
Yeah.
My uncle was really good friends with this director, Ray K, who was doing a bunch of big videos back then. So he would always put me on his jobs as a PA. And so I started with that. I quickly realized, coming from Boston, an inner city where you can get on a bus and train to get anywhere, I'm like, this is 2010. This is like pre-Uber. So you need a car out here.
Yeah.
So I shipped my car from the East Coast out here, and I was PAing for a little bit. But I was also like hanging around Harmony. And eventually he ended up hiring me to be his operations manager at the studio at BOE. This is in 2010. So I was there for like a year and a half working with Harmony. And this is when he's doing like Chris Brown, and he was having like a moment. Yeah, back then, Ariana Grande. And I remember, ironically enough, one of my really close friends, A-Rod, this was actually my first client as a proper manager in the music business. I was working at Harmony Studio. A-Rod is working at our college in admissions, and he's always been into music. Even when we were in school, he was like songwriting and recording, and he saw that I was out here and was like, I want to come visit LA. I was like, they call me Moses. They're like, you were the first one to go out there and like part to see first all come out. So he came out to visit and ended up in the studio with Harmony and co-wrote The Way for Ariana Grande, which was top 10 record.
Yeah.
And he's like, now we're having conversations about a publishing deal. And he's like, you have to be my manager. And I'm like, I don't know how to manage a songwriter. And he's like, well, I don't know any of these people out here, and you're the only person I trust, so we'll have to figure it out together. So A-Rod, still one of my best friends to this day, but he's had a lot of success as a songwriter, and he was one of my first clients, but we were friends.
But see, I say this all the time. It's not as important in the beginning to know everything.
Correct.
It's more important that you trust the person 100%. That you're working with.
Yes.
I've seen it time and time again where artists are coming in with managers that don't have a whole lot of experience, but if they're really passionate about the artist, and they got their back, they'll figure it out. You give them the time to figure it out.
100%.
But you go down the line of, whether it's yourself, it's David Ali, it's myself, it's Byron Wilson, it's Dave Free.
Yep.
Pat Corcoran with Chance, like all these people. These are managers for Kendrick, Kalani, Chance, Jesse. Like, none of them were managers before. In fact, if you're looking for the superstar manager, it's gonna be tough.
Yes, it is.
It's because you're gonna more times than not be the priority unless 100%. There's a whole team.
Yes.
Right. So the trust factor in this business is way more important than anything else.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that's amazing that you guys. And so you built that with him?
Yeah, we built that with him. We did his publishing deal, and this is where I really learned publishing, because we had an opportunity to get a bigger deal somewhere else, but Cobalt was in the conversation, and I learned the difference between a co-pub deal and an admin deal. Yeah, and he got a really good admin deal.
In 2010?
2010.
Okay, he had a hit.
Early. Yeah.
And Cobalt was doing, they were one of the first to do the admin deals.
Yes, they were.
For those who don't know,
tell
me the difference. What's co-pub and what's admin?
So co-pub typically is a 50-50 split between the publisher and the writer. Typically, there's all kinds of co-pub deals. I've seen it span the gambit of in perpetuity owning 50% of your copyrights, which I think is absurd.
Especially back then.
And admin is a set period of time where they administer your publishing and collect a smaller percentage. I think his split was like a 90-10 split.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
back
was like
then,
a
that's
really,
amazing.
exactly. It was a really good, but
generally, they're like 85, 15, 80, 20.
Yes. Yeah. But you own your copyrights.
You own your copyrights.
Yes. So that is a difference. Ownership is the name of the game, ladies and gentlemen.
100%.
So it was a really smart, I didn't know how smart of a deal it was, but just based on, you know, what I was learning at the time, I'm like, the advance wasn't a huge difference. And I think a lot of times, you know, people are after that big, quick check, but they don't realize what terms they're signing up for.
Yeah.
But
so you had leverage, though.
Yes, we did.
You just
had
a
hit record.
So they're gonna come and be like, 100%. Let me give you the admin deal.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And who put you on to say, no, this is admin deal is what you need to do?
I'm going to credit Courtney Harrell. She's a really close friend. I'd call her a mentor of mine. Berkeley alum. But just also an astute. She's not just a creative. She's also really astute in business. And she explained to us why it would be better for us. She had a deal at Cobalt, and she's like, this is why you need to do this. Because she had written some hit songs with Harmony as well for like Chris and a few other people, Fantasia. And so she explained it to us, and we were like, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it here.
Yeah. And the money's less.
Yes.
That's so important for people to know. Like, don't go after the crazy bag.
Yes.
Go for the terms.
Yeah.
The terms are way more important
100%.
For your career.
And most people don't do smart things with the money anyway.
Not in this music business. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
a lot of people don't do smart deals. A lot of people don't do smart things with the money.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that half of that check is going to be gone to Uncle Sam.
Taxes.
Yeah, taxes.
Yes.
And then you want to take care of the homies. You want to take care of mom and dad, which is not a bad thing. You want to buy the home, but then all of a sudden the money's gone.
100%. And people don't realize how hard it is to recoup that money.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age.
Well, those co-pubs back in the day, they had something called the MDRC.
Yes.
The minimum delivery requirement.
Yes.
They don't do those that much anymore.
Yeah.
Really at all.
If you still have an MDRC, fight your publisher to get that out of your contract.
That's a fact.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense anymore.
That was impossible to do and to get out of, 100%. Especially at that time.
Yes.
Where a lot of it was, there's a lot of pirating. It was before streaming, right?
Exactly.
So whenever you put out a record, I remember talking about this because the first thing that Jessie did, and I did as well too, was a publishing deal.
Yep.
And I thought about that being the best route for her because she's a songwriter. Mm-hmm. But also I realized really early on working in Canada that I wasn't going to do a label deal in Canada.
Yep.
And I was never going to do a label. I told Jessie we're never going to do a label deal in Canada because if you sign it to Canada, there's going to be a lot of red tape to a Universal or Sony, because if we want to do something in the US, then they got to go to their partners. It's just a lot of nonsense. And working in the music video side, because I had a production company, Mad Rock, I got to see how bad it was with these labels in Canada.
Yep.
And I'm going to keep it above. It was bad.
Yeah.
It's still not that great.
Yeah.
I got a lot of love for people who are working over there, but those deals still are very challenging in Canada, because if you want to do anything in the U.S., for the most part, you have to have a partner in the U.S. So if I sign a deal at Universal, then in order to get visibility in the U.S. or get help in the U.S., you have to have the partnership with Interscope or Def Jam or whoever. Yes. But then they're only getting 50% of the pie.
Right.
So why are they going to even treat you as a priority? You're not invested.
Yeah.
Unless it's going crazy for you. So I learned that early on, because on the production side, when I had my video production company, Mad Rock Entertainment, we had the grant system. And the labels relied on the grant system. And if you didn't get a grant for a music video, which, back then they were doing, it was like $30,000 for a music video. They give you grants in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. Up to like 3.2 million. Yeah, it was pretty great those times. But if you didn't get the grant, the label wasn't even putting up the money afterwards. If you don't get the grant, I'd go back to the label and I'd talk to this person over there, and or the manager, the artist. I'd be like, so let's just go to the label, and they'd be like, no, label's not putting up the bread.
That's
like,
insane. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You're not invested.
You're not invested in it.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just it was like I was always looking at that and being like, this just doesn't make.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
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 So, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was going on a tangent because those labels are.
Yeah, no, we can have a whole conversation about how little the labels do.
So when I first started working with Jessie, we decided very quickly that we weren't going to do a label deal.
Yeah.
Especially not going to do one in Canada because there was too much red tape.
Yeah.
But also because I knew at the time that whatever deal that we did, we weren't going to get a good deal. We were going to get a shit deal because she didn't have any leverage. So because she's a songwriter, we went the publishing route, and we came to LA in like 2014, I want to say. And that's when we met Jemai and Zach Katz, and eventually did a publishing deal over there. Which we just, Zach.
Love those guys. Both of them.
They're the best.
Yeah.
And Shani was there at the time as well, too. But Zach comes up on this podcast every single conversation.
He's a real one.
Everybody fucks with him.
Yeah, he's a real one.
He's a super real one.
Yeah, he is.
He's involved in your career as well, too?
We had a really great relationship when he was at BMG. It's actually one of the only times that I was interested in taking a job at a company because I wanted to work with Zach. Yeah. I was like, can I come over here and work with you guys? Because songwriters and producers is really my bag. I got into the artist thing later, but that was really what I knew. And Zach just spoke my language. And he had such an understanding, and I wanted to learn from him. You know, I really don't have a lot of mentors. You know, there's not a bunch of older, more experienced executives who have reached back and said, hey, I see what you're doing. Come up under my wing and let me teach you something. And Zach was like that with me from the beginning. He was really interested in what I had going on. He saw what we were doing with A-Rod. We ended up doing the Cobalt deal, but we did have an offer from BMG.
It was a BMG and Cobalt. Oh, okay, got you.
So, we ended up doing our deal at Cobalt, but we still maintained our relationship. And
that's dope.
Yeah, Zach is a real one.
Yeah, he is. I got till this day, call him for advice. There's 2 mentors that I have in this business. Well, I'll say 3. But he's one of them. Troy Carter. And more of a friend, and we hang out more than anything, is Mark Gillespie.
Okay.
Yeah,
you have the heavy hitters. Where are my mentors at?
No, I mean, listen, I don't call them as, very considerate to when to call these people because I don't want to annoy them or bother them. But fortunate, and that it all happened because it's just a bidding war for Jesse. But Troy is actually years later. And I met Troy through Zach Katz Raised in Space dinner with Shara, who we just put a podcast out with. And that's how I met Troy.
Nice.
And this was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he's been great ever since. Philly Mans.
Philly.